It's always nice beating Man United. What's even sweeter is when you batter Man United. Newcastle United 4, Manchester United 1, and that's the first time in like 92 years that we've done a league double over Manchester United, and we were worthy winners. We absolutely dominated that game from start to finish. But the first thing I want to start on, wishing Eddie Howe our best wishes. I think I speak for every single Newcastle United fan out there. Best wishes to Eddie Howe. Get well, speedy recovery, and we can't wait to see you back in the dugout. But we've just done we've probably put a big smile on your face because we've just done the double over Manchester United, but battered Manchester United. Sometimes you get lucky and win games. There was no luck involved in that. We were far superior than Man United. My general thoughts, one of the first times this season we've played better in the second half than we did in the first half. We grew into the game. They only looked like one winner. We looked stronger, fitter, had more quality, and were tactically far superior than Manchester United. What a performance from the boys. We bullied Manchester United. Our aggressive man-to-man press caused them so many problems, forced them into mistakes, made them do things they didn't want to do. We deserved to go 1-0 up. We deserved to win the game. But the one time Manchester United managed to break and beat the press, they scored. That's a typical Manchester United this season, a goal they didn't deserve. But even at 1-1, when the game was at 1-1 at half time, I was thinking, and I think everybody else thought this, there was only likely to be one winner. That was Newcastle United. If we kept doing what we're doing in the first half, but with a little bit more intelligence and quality, then there was only going to be one scoreline, and that's exactly what it was. 4-0 thrashing of Manchester United. We are going to be breaking down the goals, looking at it all, how we set up in our press, all fascinating stuff. But Manchester United was shocking. Worst Manchester United side I've seen, and we took full advantage. Once the second went in, the game was over. But there is a few individual players I want to talk about, and I feel like I'm saying the same thing every episode because the same players keep on stepping up. Sandro Tonali, this boy, I'm running out of words of him. I'm running out of words for him. His enthusiasm, energy, quality, work rate, desire, endeavour just radiates throughout the team. He's the heartbeat of our team now, and he's simply world class. There's no ifs or buts about it. This guy is world class. Tino Livramento's really stepped up in the absence of Lewis Hall. Another impressive performance, consistently posing a threat on the left-hand side, tactically and technically making a difference. Harvey Barnes, 8 goals and 3 assists in 1,167 minutes in the Premier League, which is simply outstanding. Personally, I don't even think he had his best of games today. I thought he grew into the game. First half, he was quite sluggish, but his movement was terrific. He grew into the game. His confidence looks like it's growing each week, and I really like his tactical awareness. His positional awareness is improving each game. Jacob Murphy, the first Newcastle player to assist 10 goals from open play since Laurent Robert in 2021-22 season. The thing about Jacob Murphy, right, he might not be the most aesthetically pleasing guy. He might not get the ball dribble past 5, 6, 7, 8 players. But what he does on a football pitch, the way he impacts a game is massive. He's assisting every game now. That's what it seems like. And those statistics prove it. So he stepped up this season. Massive, massive credit to Jacob Murphy. Bruno, the only player in the Premier League to win 200 plus duels this season. He's won the most fouls in the Premier League this season, and he's completed the most through balls in the Premier League this season. What more can you ask for? What a player. He just epitomizes everything about Newcastle United. He plays with passion. He wears his heart in his sleeve. He works hard off the ball. He's aggressive in duels, and he's got that quality in possession. And those statistics, again, prove it. What a player he is. And before we break down the goals, I really want to look at our setup and how we really caused Man United problems, because I think this game wasn't just about Manchester United making mistakes. I think it was more about Newcastle forcing them into mistakes and things they didn't want to do. This was early on in the game where Tino received the ball out wide. Look at Harvey Barnes exploiting that inside channel. The reason he does this is because he becomes an extra man. He supports Alexander Isak in attack, and we're seeing the same from Sandro Tonali throughout this game. And this is earlier on in the game where Jacob Murphy has a strike. But look at Sandro Tonali exploiting those inside channels, because what Newcastle were doing was having Jacob Murphy high wide, having Tino high wide, having Barnes coming in the inside channel, and having Sandro Tonali making deep runs because he was the extra man in midfield exploiting those inside channels. Manchester United just couldn't really cope with it. And again, here's another example where we're just keeping possession, recycling possession. But look at Harvey Barnes. He's looking at Isak, looking at where the space is. And this is what I'm saying about Harvey Barnes. He's now beginning to influence a game off the ball because his tactical awareness is improving each week. His positional awareness is improving each week. And I love a winger that wants to get in the box. That's exactly what Harvey Barnes does for his opening goal. But you can clearly see him there looking at Isak, looking at where Isak's going to go and looking at where the space might open up. This again was earlier on in the game where Jacob Murphy received the ball. He had a pop shot at goal. I don't mind it. But it's just these little things that make a difference later on in the game, because if he continues to get himself into good positions, eventually the goal will come. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Harvey Barnes' first goal. But our first goal was just a thing of beauty. The executions, the patterns of play was just ridiculous. You had Trippier playing it in Isak. Isak just the first touch, just to cushion it on his left foot. Just with that little bounce in order for him to lift it over Lenny Oro. And the movement from deep from Sandro Tonali, and this is what I spoke about just a minute ago, those third man runs into the box, Manchester United just couldn't cope with it. And then the technical quality from Sandro Tonali to just finish his first time into the bottom corner was just sublime. This is a guy that's high on confidence. This is a guy that really is playing at the elite level, at the top of his game. What a footballer on and off the ball. I've got no criticism about Sandro Tonali, only positives. For me, he's turning into the best midfielder in the Premier League this season. And those third man runs from all over the pitch, Tino, Barnes, Sandro Tonali, were causing Manchester United problems all game. We could have had 2 or 3 in that first half. Isak had a couple of chances, so we really could have went in the break at 2-3-1 up. But here's just an example of our press. Now, as you can see, our press in their third is extremely aggressive. 2 or 3 men baiting the ball, trying to win the ball back. But if you look at outside where the ball is, you've got Isak, Tonali, Bruno, Jacob Murphy, all going into a man-to-man press. So when Man United were deep in their own half, it was a man-to-man press. Because what Amorim wants to do is his centre-back wants to be that extra man. He wants his centre-back to move into midfield to provide that extra body in midfield. But Isak just didn't allow it because he's literally off the ball, just followed their centre-back around. And this is exactly where our fourth goal comes from, which we'll touch upon later. But as you can see, our man-to-man press is forcing them backwards. Now look at Eriksen. He's telling Bruno to get out of the space. He's starting to recognise that we can't play this way because Newcastle United are on us like hounds. Eriksen's telling Bruno to get out this area, go make the pitch wide. That's what Man United didn't do. They didn't make the pitch big, because as soon as they make the pitch big, it's for that run for Newcastle United. We're unable to hunt them down and suffocate them in traps. But this is exactly what we did all game, forcing Man United backwards. So it wasn't about Man United making mistakes. It was about Newcastle being so good off the ball and forcing them into mistakes. Now, the only thing and only danger about a man-to-man press, an aggressive man-to-man press in their final third, is the spacing behind. The one time Man United played through that man-to-man press, they were in on goal. And as you can see, there's space for them to drive into. If you're coming up against an elite, a very good ball carrier, then there's a problem. That's the only problem about the man-to-man press. But the reward completely outweighs the risk, because if you win the ball back higher up the pitch, you've got a greater chance of scoring. And that's exactly what we're seeing. That's why we scored 4 goals. But this is where United's goal came from. And I kind of feel like Dan Burn probably shouldn't be the one closing the ball down. It should be Fabian Shaw, because we've got a 2-on-1 that side. Dan Burn should really be looking after Garnacho. And it's harder to play that ball into Xerxes than it is into Garnacho. But it's so difficult to make that decision in a split second. Who's going to go and close the ball down? It should be Fabian Shaw, but it is Dan Burn. We'll get caught out. And fair play to Garnacho. It's a nice, tidy finish from him. But look, we went in 1-1. Man United didn't really look like threatening more. They had a good open and sequence of play in the first half where Xerxes had a shot and Pope tipped it over the ball. But apart from that, we were far superior, and it just got even better in the second half. Now, I spoke about the importance of overloading the midfield because There's two reasons why you want to do it, because you have a third man run into the box, which we're seeing with Sandro Tonali's goal. But you also have this scenario where it's literally 3v2, where Dan Burns steps into midfield. You've got Joe Linton receiving the ball, and then he just splits their two centre midfielders, and Tonali's free. So you've got Eriksen, Martin, Bruno. You've got Bruno Fernandes trying to do doggies between Joe Linton and Tonali, and you've got Højlund dropping back in to try and split the pass. So you've literally created a 3v2, and that's where you get the extra man. And this is where we exploited and really damaged Manchester United. But then we win the ball. The ball goes out to Tino. Tino absolutely sells Dalot for a bag of chips. Just absolutely sells him. He skins him. And then Tino, just with a little bit of quality, puts the ball into a dangerous area. It bypasses everyone. But Jacob Murphy doing what good wingers do, just putting the ball back into a dangerous area. And I spoke about Harvey Barnes wanting to get into the penalty area. I spoke about him looking for the space earlier on. That was the danger signs. And this is why, because he puts himself into great positions to score goals. And he's actually a very good ball striker. Look, it's a comfortable finish from him, but he's putting himself into those dangerous areas. And that's exactly what you want from your winger. A goal-scoring winger is the most dangerous winger out there. Now, here's another example of how we changed our press depending on where we were on the pitch. If we're deep in our own half, it's more of a 4-4-2 lethargic press. We're not as aggressive. And the reason being is because if Sandro Tonali sprints into the ball there, he can get packed out the game. Pack means eliminated out of the game by just moving the ball around them. So Sandro Tonali's a lot more lethargic, just forcing Man United backwards. And this is exactly where our third goal comes from, because the ball gets played backwards, Mazraoui slips, and then Harvey Barnes in on goal. So it wasn't about winning the ball back early. It was about stopping Man United playing through the lines. And that's the quality of coaching from Eddie Howe, from his coaching staff on the training pitch, knowing what the players to do in different scenarios. In this scenario, it's all about keeping shape, not allowing Man United to play through the lines, forcing Man United into a negative pass, which means a backwards pass, and then we're forcing them into a mistake. As soon as that ball goes anywhere near the halfway line, that's when we'll press aggressively. And that's exactly what we're seeing. That's why Mazraoui got caught slipping, because he was in danger. He got flustered and he slipped on the ball. So you can clearly see a difference in pressing from this sort of press where it's aggressive. Look at Joe Linton sprinting in. You've got Harvey Barnes closing the space. Everybody's closing, really suffocating Man United, to this press where it's a lot more lethargic. They're just keeping their shape, not allowing Man United through the space. And this is what I'm talking about. There's a way of winning games without possession. You can allow the team to have possession, but you can dominate that game without possession. You can control that game without possession. Newcastle United did that brilliantly yesterday, and that resulted in our third goal. I haven't got snippets of our third goal, but simply the ball gets played backwards, Mazraoui slips, Harvey Barnes in on goal. But this is our fourth goal press, and I spoke about the importance of that centre-back becoming free, because we're seeing this a lot at Sporting. Now, the problem for Man United is they're not the best team in the league. Sporting were one of the best teams in the league, so they could get away with making the odd mistake. They could get away with having players in certain positions and not having the opposition being as tactically switched on from you. But when Newcastle United are just, better than Man United, that's the problem. Lenny Euro doesn't want the ball here. Now, Amarim wants his centre-back to receive in the centre of the pitch and the build-out from there. Isak stopped that all game. He was all over their centre-back, not allowing them to receive the ball. The ball goes back into the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper doesn't really know what to do with it, because he can't play out because of our aggressive press. He can't play into Bruno. He can't play into Eriksen. He can't play into Lenny Euro, because we're all pressing aggressively. So he's forced to go along. We win the ball back. The space is opened up because Man United are spread out, and that's where our fourth goal comes from. Brilliant stuff from Newcastle United. Again, it wasn't about Man United making mistakes. It was about Newcastle forcing them into mistakes. Newcastle was simply brilliant yesterday without being brilliant in possession, if that makes sense. So that's 4 consecutive Premier League wins, 5 if you count the Carabao Cup. We're 1 point off third with a game in hand. We beat Palace in midweek. We go third. There's absolutely no reason why we can't finish third in the Premier League, which would be an insane season for Eddie Howe. won a trophy, finished in the Champions League spots, but not only finished in the Champions League spot, finished third in the Premier League. Now, if we can build on this in the summer, why can't we challenge for the title next season? Or really, not challenge, but be up in and around that title slots next season, because our first 11 is simply sensational. The balance of this team is absolutely phenomenal. One of the best, well-recruited teams in the Premier League, and I stand by that. It's just excellent stuff from Newcastle United. They were brilliant against Manchester United. Without being that silky in possession, what they did with the ball just impacted the game. What they did without the ball just impacted the game. Elite coaching from Eddie Howe, who pound for pound for me is the best coach in the Premier League, because if you think about it, he's not signed a senior player in 3 years, but yet he's getting the best out of this squad. What a performance from the boys. What a win. It's always nice beating Man United, but it's even sweeter when you batter Man United. But I want to hear your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see more of this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think we can finish third in the Premier League, which is just insane to think about? Let me know in the comments below how you enjoyed that game, and are you looking forward to Palace midweek? If you are, let us know your score predictions. And until the next time, away the lads.